Starting a construction company, you're going to need to hire people. You can't do everything yourself. You're going to need to build a team, which is going to be a new skill as a new business owner. This video, I'm going to be running through 5 big points of how to hire the right people, how to communicate with them, how to manage them, how to lead them, how to retain employees. So you're not putting all this time and energy and effort into training them and onboarding them, and then they, bugger off and go to another company in a couple of weeks or months or what have you, where you got to fire them, worst case scenario. So stick around, stay to the end. This is really important stuff, especially if you're starting a construction business. You need to be able to manage your HR of your company. Jumping right in, first point with me, let's go. Hiring right. It all starts with the hiring, and what you need to think about for hiring is often you are starting too early with your hiring as far as you haven't thought through who specifically do you want to be working in your business for a specific role. Whatever trade or your general contract or whatever, type of position you're thinking of, whether it's carpenter or what have you, you're probably thinking, okay, I need a carpenter. I need to, put out an ad, carpenter paying roughly, this much per hour, and they have to have 3 years of experience, right? That is not a lot to go on. You're pretty much just marketing to the broad masses. And with marketing, you want to get niche. You want to know specifically who are you targeting. Just as you have got an ideal client, you should have an ideal employee. So if the role is a carpentry position, what level is that? Is it, entry, mid-level, experienced, handyman? You really want to go through the process of who is this person, what are they looking for in a job, what kind of background experience should they have, what are their demographics as far as age or location. You can't advertise for specific things because it's discriminatory or whatever, but you should have a very good idea of like who fits the mold of someone who's going to fit well in that position. A good way to figure out who's going to be best for a position is think back. I mean, if this is your first company and you're just starting out, you may not have employees that you can base it off of, but you've probably worked with other carpenters or know other carpenters or even yourself when you were starting out, and you want to base your advertising to attract that type of person. It's great to replicate. I had this happen to me where I was hiring for my business. I had a great crew foreman. He was a great guy, been working for me maybe three years or something like that. Ran his crew, did well, was experienced, got along with everybody really well. And if I could replicate him, I would. So I was going through the hiring process. I had narrowed it down to 2 candidates. I was undecided. Should I hire this guy or this guy? They both kind of had similar experience, different personalities, but to some degree similar-ish anyway. So I was a little bit divided, but I ended up going with the one candidate because he reminded me a lot of my other foreman that I had that has worked out well. And his, personalities kind of were similar, and some of his background was similar. So I was like, I'm going to go with him. And it turned out to be one of the best decisions I ever made. He was a fantastic site foreman. He ran his crew well. He's experienced, easy to get along with, really top-notch guy. Think about that for yourself. Who do you specifically want for a specific position? You should have a list of standard questions so that you're not just sort of winging it, talking to people when you're interviewing them. Do have some questions just to be able to have some structure, and so that you're not judging but like verifying people in the same way, right? If you're just going through a random conversation with one person and then random conversation with another person, you're probably asking, different questions and experiencing, different responses from them. So it's hard to really, pinpoint how to go for one person from the other. So that is a big part of hiring. As far as the specific process, all these points, I'm not just going to, tell you all the tips and tricks, which is going to be very useful, but I'm going to give you a quick snapshot of like, what's the system, what's the process. If you know me, if you're starting a construction company, you want to get that foundation of systems and processes because it's going to save you time. It's going to make life a whole lot easier for you and your employees. So for the hiring process, you create the ideal avatar of who do you want to, employ, what's the role, figure that out. You create the ad. So you base the ad off of that. Use ChatGPT or whatever nowadays. It's easier than ever. But build an ad, and from there you advertise, put it on all the listing sites. You want a lot of responses. You want to be specific with your ad so you're not getting like random responses or people that are not fit or unqualified, but you do want to be reaching a large mass of people to find the best in, that's available. So you'll put out the ad on all your listing sites for jobs. From there, then you're going to do a phone call. So quick 10-15 minute phone call with maybe the top, depending how many resumes and applications you got. Maybe it's just, 3 people, maybe it's 5, whatever it is. Give them a call, 10-15 minutes, just ask them a few very basic questions. Hey, I got your resume. You said you worked here, here, and here. Is that correct? Yes. These are some deal breakers. You need a license, you need a vehicle, you can't be scared of heights. Just list off any deal breakers that if someone, doesn't have those qualifications or, is not in the location or whatever, thank you very much. But unfortunately, we're looking for someone who's got a vehicle and can get and show up to site or whatever. So that 15-minute phone call saves you that hour of interview. Instead of, scheduling a long interview with someone before they're actually, you've talked to them and qualified. Plus, on that phone call, you're going to get a feel for how do they communicate? Were they responsive? Did you leave a message and they called you back within, 30 minutes, an hour? What was their voicemail like? So it gives you a little bit of a feel of like how organized, how responsive are they? How do they communicate? And that the way you can gauge whether you offer them to do a long form, interview. From there, you'll go to probably like a 1 hour type interview, 45 minutes, 1 hour interview. It could be a sit down at a coffee shop, could be a Zoom call. I would prefer to meet in person or have them come to one of your job sites. You know you're going to be at a job site, invite them to the job site, do the interview there. That way they can kind of see what's going on. You can also get a feel from if you got some other employees on site, like, hey, what did you think about them? Or you could like introduce them to your foreman after you've interviewed them for, 40 minutes, bring over your foreman, quick 5 minute, 10 minute, hey, how you do? Like, you guys talk and I'm going to go, check out something or send some message on my phone. So you can even leave them alone, get that second opinion from the foreman or your other employees who are going to be working with this person because they need that culture and they need to have a good feeling as well. Obviously, you're going to make the decision at the end of the day, but you want to make sure that like the more bases you can cover, the better. So all of that goes into the hiring process. And then there's one key, very important step that I see experienced business owners not doing, making the mistake all the time, and it bites them in the ass. Everybody kind of knows it, but nobody does it. So if you start doing this, I guarantee you will have a better managed, better run, better people, team, company than a lot of other contractors out there. And that is do proper due diligence. So what does that involve? Call their past employer, maybe call a landlord, call some character references, check them out on social media. Everybody's online pretty much today, their Facebook, their Instagram, whatever, TikTok, whatever they may be. If it just shows them, partying and swearing and like a whole bunch of weird stuff, maybe not a good fit for your team. So not that you can fully, judge someone on that, but there may be red flags in there that at least you're aware of who this person is, outside of a work environment. And a lot of people can answer questions in the right way and they can maybe give you a good feeling. They can dress the part, they can show up, they can talk well, but you don't really know them until you start working with them. So doing some due diligence, it gives you that insight and make sure you don't have to go through this whole process again with another candidate if they leave or you have to fire them or what have you. When you're actually doing the questions, this hiring part super important. That's why I'm spending a lot of time on this, but you want to get this right because hiring the wrong person, whether it's an employee or if you're a landlord renting to people, I'm not going to get into real estate investing, but there's just like that interview, that onboarding process, that initial like start. When you're asking questions in an interview, you want to ask real life experience questions. So what do I mean by this? If you're talking to a guy, he's a carpenter, he's going to come work for you, potentially. You're talking to him and you're going to ask him like, you could ask him like, how much experience do you have building houses, framing walls? He may say like, yeah, I know how to frame walls. Can you tell me the steps? Okay, well, I'm going to chalk the lines, measure, cut the material, nail it together, stand the wall, whatever, right? He may have that knowledge to tell you how he would do it, but like ask him specifically, tell me a time when you built a wall that was difficult, or what's the most difficult kind of framing work that you've done. So something that ties it to an actual experience that they've had, a specific point, a specific story. Tell me about a time when you didn't agree with a coworker. Tell me a time when you got upset with your boss. Like these types of questions, because it's a lot harder for them to make up stories and blatantly lie about stuff like that. Whereas if you're just asking like, what would you do in this situation? Anybody can say anything at that point because it's like, oh, I would, get along and I would talk to this guy or that guy or, I would whatever, right? So ask specifically like historical, what did you do questions. That'll give you a much better insight of who they are, how they handled situations, and what they're probably going to do in the future because past performance, past behavior is often, continues through to the future. So making sense, getting this right, hiring, super important, moving on, stay with me. If you're getting some value here, give this video a thumbs up. Appreciate you for it and you're awesome. So number 2, all right, communication. Communication's everything with inside a business. It is so important. Everybody is communicating in some way. Your brand is communicating. As far as employees go, it is so easy for communication to break down and you are the leader of the company. Your communication needs to be at a very high level so everybody else can model it and they know what to expect. Some keys for communication is you always want to be, putting yourself in the other person's shoes and thinking about where they are at, because you as an experienced builder, experienced carpenter, electrician, whatever you may be for your trade, are talking at a level that's well beyond someone on site. So that's the first thing where communication can break down is you could be talking from an experienced journeyman, red seal, whatever level to like an apprentice, newbie, and they don't know what you're talking about. They haven't heard those terms before. They may know like some basic tools and what they are, but you're going to lose them in translation unless you're very, very clear and concise. So you always want to do that. And then ask them, can you repeat to me what you're going to do or what I said? And let them know, like, I'm not trying to be a dick here. I'm not trying to make your life difficult. I just want to make sure that you understand it in a way that you can tell me, so that we're very clear here, and the communication is going back and forth. Anybody worth their salt will be like, yeah, no problem. So they can walk it through, and they may forget a step. They may, say something in a weird way, or they may have like a blank stare on their face, and that's where you need to jump in and clarify. So that's sort of the first way that communication can break down. Another way is, especially if you are doing any kind of communication that's not in person, there's going to be, again, separations and gaps. If you're calling your guys in the morning or texting them, don't text like anything beyond just like a few points of information, because it gets way too easy for guys to fall into the habit of like texting, and meanwhile you're wasting 10, 20, half, like 30 minutes or more in a conversation that would have been a 5-minute phone call. So pick up the phone, talk to them. But anything over the phone, you're going to lose a lot of ability to communicate with them specifically. So keep that in mind. Another good way to make sure communication is met and consistent across your company is to have that as part of your onboarding and training process. So if you got an employee handbook, or you have got a new employee coming to the company, tell them what's acceptable and how to communicate to yourself, to other team members, clients. Tell them, if you're going to be late in the morning, if you've got an issue, if you're not feeling well, you need to pick up the phone and call me or text me the day before. If you're unsure about what to do on site, reach out to me or this foreman. You have to tell them specifically what to do in situations, how to make decisions, and make sure that you've communicated to them how you want them to communicate with everybody else. Making sense? I feel like I've covered enough on there. Communication, not really thought about, not really experienced much as far as like professionally how to communicate, but it is super important for your people, and will save you a ton of headaches. Remember a time I hired a guy, said he had tiling experience. He was a good tiler, and I got him set up on site. Simple backsplash, pretty much straight run of cabinets or countertop. He was tiling it, not a difficult type of tile by any means. So anyways, yes, I've got experience. I do lots of tiling, no problem. Again, I should have asked him, how are you planning to tile this? What's the first step? What are you going to do, and everything? And it probably would have become very evident to me that he was not super experienced and he needed more direction on the task. Anyways, long story short, we get to the end of the project, not the end of the project, but like, a couple days later, and client calls me, what happened with the tiles? I'm like, I'm not too sure. They looked okay to me. Yeah, at the countertops, but where the range is, the oven, they take a dip. I'm like, oh really? Well, what happened? So I go to site. Sure enough, he hadn't continued his line with the tile, and you got this nice tile above the countertop, and then where the range was, well, they just go like this, and that's a pain in the ass to fix. Had to apologize, had to fix it, had to take care of it, all because I didn't communicate properly and ask him what he was doing, and make sure that he was doing it correctly. So I don't know what that was, maybe a couple $1,000 mistake, potentially maybe 1,000, somewhere in there. Anyways, very easy to make communication mistakes that cost a lot of money at the end of the day. All right, so number 3, still with me here? Let's go. All right. Number 3 is retention. So you've hired them, you're communicating with them, you're going to be training them, you're going to be investing time, money, and energy into your employees. The last thing you want to do is have them leave your company for a couple dollars of an hour extra, or have to fire them because they're not working out. So retention is super critical. Retention for employees, for clients, extremely critical, and as well as employees, because typically the health of a business, do a quick check. If you want to know how good a business operates or how well a business is doing, often you can gauge it by how long have the employees been there. If you go to a business or you're doing business with someone and they've got employees that have been around for 5, 10, 20 years, you can be pretty assured that that business is operating really well, and that they have a really good relationship with employees. They're making money, the employees are paid well, they're being taken care of, there's a good fit there culturally. So just as a side note, if you can do that, you're doing well. Keys to retention, that hiring process is super important. The onboarding process is super important. Training, which I'm going to get to in a bit, you're going to want to stick around for that. The training is super important, because all of these, you're investing in people, right? And that's the mindset. You're investing in these people for the long term. And when an employee feels like you care about them, when you're investing in them, they're getting more than just a paycheck. They're actually, improving as a person, and they feel good about going to work. You will keep them for the long run. There's a lot of ways to incentivize, as far as, with raises, with benefits with certain things. I'm not going to get into that because those are probably for later on in the business because you want to keep things pretty lean when you're starting out, but you want to pay decently well. Being a startup has its benefits as well for retention because employees can kind of feel like they want you to succeed. They know that you're just starting out. It's a small team, it's tight knit. They're really invested in your success and can be with the right people on time. So you have an incredible advantage for good retention. Plus, they can see that if you're growing, you're starting, you're growing, you're doing well, you really have their best interest and the company's best interest in mind, that they're going to be taken along for the ride as far as like there's going to be opportunities for growth, there's going to be opportunities for advancement, there's going to be opportunities to be a part of something special, which is the growth of your company and your team. So there's a lot of benefits there for retention. And again, this boils down to your communication as a leader. Leadership, I'm going to get to in a bit as well, is communicating to them like, I'm hiring you. I know things happen, but I want this to be a place for you to stay around long term as an employee. I want you to work here for years and years and years, and I want to be aligned with your future success. And then you can ask them, when they're starting out, maybe you got to build up some of that goodwill as far as the relationship goes, maybe before they're like super open with you. But if they tell you like, yeah, I want to be a foreman, yeah, I want to, become a level whatever carpenter or plumber or whatever, that you can then align their goals with your goals and you'll have really good retention. All right, making sense. Number 4. Moving on, we got 4, then we got 5, and you are going to be set for amazing employees. This video is part of a series. So this is a series on how to start a construction company. There are, I believe, 7 or 8 videos that I'm doing here. They start from early in the client journey for, planning out your business all the way to the end of like financials and everything, project management. So if this is the first video of the series you're watching, go back, check out their earlier videos in the series. There will be a playlist that we'll put in the description, or go to the channel and check it out. So check everyone. If you watch all of these, you're well on your way to having a very successful business and avoiding a lot of the mistakes that I made and I see a lot of other contractors making when they're starting a business, and even years later because they never got the right information or set things up properly. So kudos to you. You're doing well. Number 4, we're going to talk about training. I said earlier about investing in people. When you start investing in employees, you're doing them a huge, I wouldn't say favor, but you're doing them a big service because you're improving them as a person. You're also making them more efficient and successful in your business, so that improves your profitability. You can also leave them alone better so they're not bugging you all the time what they should be doing or how to do things. You've got less headaches because you don't have to fix their mistakes or have things come up as far as quality goes that clients are asking about. So train your people. The construction industry is known for on-the-job training and not really having any formal training programs, especially smaller companies starting out. That needs to change. Training is super important, and it makes your life so much easier when you've got a training program. When you're training people, you can get them to a place with training in 6 months that may take them 2 years otherwise. And that way, in 6 months, they're self-sufficient. You can give them tasks. You can tell them to go do things. They will get it done. You don't have to watch them and babysit them and check over their shoulder. And they're going to feel really good because they're competent and they're growing. So keys to a training program, it's really quite easy. You want to just have some sort of a document or plan or outline that you want to do during the onboarding process. So you got your new carpenter coming in. Hey, guy, carpenter, you say you've got like a year of experience. I'm hoping within 1 to 2 years, you can pretty much build a house, frame up a house by yourself and do the carpentry work. In order to get there, these are sort of the big skills that you need to do. So you can just list out a bunch of skills and just let them know these are things that we're going to be working on. And these are things that I'd also like you to do some study on. There are lots of videos on YouTube, online, how to frame a wall, how to, put a floor assembly together, how to frame a roof, how to sheet a roof, how to do anything and everything. I'm talking about carpentry, but this can be anything in construction. Find videos that are aligned with like how you like to do things or your area of building. Create a database, a knowledge base is what it's called. It's just an Excel spreadsheet with a list of different videos, how to do this, how to do this, how to do this, how to do this. You could have different levels, you could have different areas of types of jobs, and just tell them, hey, take like 30 minutes every day when you're at home, while you're driving, whatever it may be, listen to these, watch these videos. This is part of your training. I want you to have that background knowledge. They're not going to be able to go through those videos and be able to frame a house or, run electrical in a house or what have you. But if they've got 60-70% of the knowledge, they at least know how to do it. They know the steps. They've got some background knowledge. Now, when you're training them, it's not fresh. It's not new. You don't have to explain things from scratch. It's like, did you watch the video on building walls? Yes, I did. Okay, watch me do it, help me out. The next one you're going to do by yourself. If you need help, call me, right? So within, a very short period of time, that training is just, exponentially quicker if they've got a bit of background knowledge and they've actually studying, and it creates a culture in your company. I'm going on here because this is super important. It creates a culture in your company where you are training, people are learning, and when that next guy comes in, they know, hey, I went through this training. Here's the spreadsheet. Go watch these videos. I'm going to show you. You've trained a trainer. You've replicated yourself. Life is good. And you are so far ahead of so many other people out there that are still just training on site and people getting experience by, you're always going to need that guy to move material and, do the rookie jobs. And that's okay. But at least they should be training and knowledgeable. And if you're growing as a company, they're going to need to move up and you're going to need to bring in some new junior people into your company. So making sense. Can you see how that's really super easy? You haven't really created anything. You just need to create a list and an outline, get some videos on. You don't need a training program. You just need resources for your people and a plan of where they want to be in a certain amount of time, and communicate that. All right, still with me here. People are awesome. When you have a company that's winning, that's successful, you're starting out, you're new, you're getting jobs, you've got some cool people you're working with. There's an energy with inside the company that just clicks, it makes sense, and will help carry you to those next levels. So get this right, you're doing awesome. Number 5. So the fifth big piece of the puzzle to like your HR, human resources, employee management in construction is your leadership, and it boils down to you. So you're the captain of your vessel, the captain of the ship, and everybody kind of knows you got to lead by example. So that means, not showing up late for meetings, not slacking off here, not communicating properly with your team, maybe taking out more money from the company than you should to buy that new boat or truck or whatever, right? So you need to be first and foremost the role model for your company, if you will, and you need to be accountable. So that's another part of communication with your employees is like, I expect you to be accountable, show up to work, to do your job properly, to tell me if there's something wrong, but I also want you to hold me accountable. If you feel like I'm dropping the ball as a business owner, if I'm not communicating with you, if things are not planned out, if things are not working inside the company, if you are upset and pissed off at something that I've done, please let me know, tell me so we can get it out in the open, we can figure it out and move on. So that is a part of leadership, is not just leading and managing your people, but also being open to them providing advice and feedback and all those kinds of things. Some other real big keys to leadership we've kind of mentioned with the communication. I think one of the best analogies of leadership is if you're holding a chain and you put that chain on the ground, if you try pushing a chain, it's not going to go anywhere. It's just going to bunch up and nothing happens, right? But when you start pulling the chain, then all the links start following you. And that's synonymous with leadership. If you're pushing and trying to coerce and kind of pull out every little bit of productivity out of your people, and it's just not going to work. It's not effective leadership. When you start leading from the front and asking people to come with you, asking them to join you because of who you are, because they respect you, you're going to have a lot more synergy with inside your organization. Another part of leadership is delegation. So it'll be very comfortable for you to jump in on site. Oh, the guys need help with this. We're not, we're behind. We need to do this or that. You're a business owner. You need to stop thinking about how do I do this? How do I get this done in time? How do I do this? No, it's who. Who can I hire? Who can take this off my plate? Who can I delegate this to? Who would know best about this that I can ask them for advice? So you start thinking about who, and that's a big different perception between employee and business owner, entrepreneur. Is your team is your network is your net worth, but your people as well, the people on your team, and you need to start being able to delegate effectively to those people, and that's part of creating a system and a process. So you always want to have a system and a process for all these things, like I've mentioned, like with the training, retention, communication. How to build something, how do we talk to clients, have that process for them so that they have something to follow. And that is a big part of leadership, being able to delegate, not just saying, hey, go do this, or hey, I don't want to do this anymore, and kind of like throw it to them and to have them figure it out. That's not effective delegation. That's not effective leadership. You want to be here's the process that I created. This is what I do. This is how we like to do it here. You're always changing and improving and open to feedback. But by doing that, it's showing them that, hey, hey, this company isn't just fly by night, fly by the seat of your pants, kind of like try to get shit done here and there. There's a process. There's something legitimately going on with the company. So make it sense. As always, check out the description, links in the description below. I'll see you in the next video.